Dear Tyler, good morning. How are you? I hope you're good. I hope you're fine. Yay! It's so nice to reach out to you again. I know I haven't spoken to you since like last week after my previous podcast to you. So that's the reason. Anyway, today's podcast is really going to share why it didn't happen. So I know that the topic of today's podcast is that I'm getting married next year. And I know a lot of you reached out to me and you were like, "Oh, congratulations! I'm so excited for you and everything." And I was just laughing, and I know that at the tail end of the post, I was like, "I hope you guys don't stone me for what the podcast is going to be about." We had a busy week last week. My friend and brother David Dam got married, and it was a really, really hectic period. I'm still trying my best to be able to recover and all. And I was just thinking about it, and I was like, wow, what would be a really nice topic to share with Tyla this week? And I was like, why not to share my own story on how David and Jane, how they got married. And yeah, maybe there may be a little twist at the end and all, but really that's just it. I learned so much from their wedding. But most of the things I'm just going to share they're not going to be very intimate or personal things, in the sense that definitely it's very important to maintain their privacy and all. But then there were just things that I personally learned from their wedding. So the post is not about my wedding, right? It's not about my wedding, not at all. It was just something that I learned through over time with David. Especially on his journey to getting married and all. So, and hopefully from there we could pick up life lessons as we usually do. And yeah, so please don't stone me yet, right? Things may twist and all. But yeah, so the story for me, I won't get into the whole details of how they started dating and the whole relationship story now. The whole story for me starts 2020, right? 2020, yes. So December 2020, David Dam, Jimmy, and I were invited for administration in Kaduna. We're invited for administration in Kaduna. I really can't remember what brought David to Abuja, but he was in Abuja for something. And then we had administration in Kaduna, so we traveled down to Kaduna. That was December, right? Yeah, it should be December now. So we were on our way for the administration. We're together with a friend. Me and David were together with a friend, Pastor Mike Alao, a great friend from ABU's area. We call him Touche. Awesome guy. He used to rap that year, but now he shares memes. So we were just in the train station, we booked our ticket. Got our tickets and everything, and then we were just in the train station, and he got married, and we decided to kind of like ask him questions about, okay, how'd you get ready for marriage and all. And he was like, really, you marry by faith. But then he was like, first of all, you get married, the whole marriage stuff really starts with a decision. He said he just decided, okay, he was going to get married at so time, and he just put it as a focal point for him, like, I'm going to get married this year, so yeah. And I think it happened to coincide with the pandemic period. So, but he just shared a whole lot of things about how he moved in faith and how certain provisions came the week of the wedding. How he didn't have everything figured out, but then that whole decision, meeting the parents and doing everything, just panned out. Yeah, and I was like, that's cool. For me, it was like it was just a very nice moment, because not being in a relationship and all, I really couldn't make much of it, but I saw how David was intently listening to Pastor Mike. And in my mind, I was like, oh, well, this guy has caught something. This guy has really caught something. I was like, okay, that's cool. And so after, the ministrations and all, Pastor Mike had to leave the next day. David and I ministered the next day with Jimmy. It was an awesome time. And I remember just sitting with David, and David was like, Binga, I'm going to marry next year. I'm marrying Jay next year. There was this confidence, this audacity in his tone. Now, he had already engaged Jane the month before. Yes, he had engaged Jane the month before. Or 2 months prior to that, rather. But then there was just this, I'm going to get married next year. I'm getting married to Jane next year. And I was like, okay, well, so let's see. I couldn't really relate to it because, there was still an equation that needed to be fixed. And he had planned, to see her mom and everything. Tragedy struck, and she lost her mom early that year, like January 1st. It was really hard stuff. But this was it. So David traveled down to her place. I think that was the first step that I knew that, this guy is serious. The whole burial proceedings, David was there. He went to a land that he didn't know, he had never been to before, met a people that, apart from her mom, that he was quite, close to. They related and all. Apart from that, I don't think he had any contact with them, but he was there. And I looked and I was like, this guy is serious. And, they kept on talking about it, and, they kept on planning, reached out to wedding planners, just doing everything that needed to be done. I remember we were traveling to, I think I was going to Zaria for something. I think we're going for an audition, so for Korean worship team. So we traveled together. He was like, okay, he's going to meet the parents. I was like, wow. So we got the gifts to the parents and everything. We got into KD. We saw the lady. They organized when they were going to meet, he and Jane, did all of the arrangements. And I was just seated, throughout the whole discussions, I was just looking and I was like, this thing is real. Like, they're really, really going to do this thing. We got to Zaria pretty late though. Can't remember what caused us to be late, but we got to Zaria pretty late. They had already started the auditions and all. And then after that, he had to go back. That was when they were going to see the family and everything. I just, kept in tabs and all. So I was like, okay, wow, this is all nice. So he got to see the family. Okay, so I think we went back to, we came back to Abuja together. Then he had moved to Abuja and all. And so we came back to Abuja together. I was just looking, I was like, oh my goodness. This guy is really, really getting married. Then the next thing I think was, he called me, he was like, okay, so we're creating a WhatsApp group. He wants me to be part of the groomsmen. I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool. And then, so, we just started the whole thing. We were meeting with the groomsmen, having discussions. This was like, I think maybe like 6 months before the wedding, or maybe like 5 to 4 months before the wedding. I didn't, still take much of it, all this WhatsApp group stuff. Then after some time, he reached out to me and he was like, okay, Benga, I'd love you to be my best man. It's like, okay, wow. So this is it for me. I've missed a lot of my friends' weddings, a lot. One of my closest friends, David, work stuff came up and I missed his wedding. It still hurts me till today. Another of my close friends, Joshua Giggins, the same thing, work-related stuff just came up and I couldn't make it for the wedding. So this was my very first wedding that I was like really participating in. And then the first responsibility is the best man. I was like, okay, so how are you going to handle it and all? But then in general, right? I just moved on with the whole thing, doing the whole planning and working together with him. It was just going well. Now, definitely in all preparations and plans, there's the tendency that you meet some hiccups here and there. And I was personally panicking. I was like, oh my God, we've not done this. And I noticed that he was, always pretty calm. He said, we'll do this, don't worry. And I was all fidgety. I was becoming apprehensive, being tensed and all. But he was like, no, we'll handle it. I remember like a week to the wedding, I used to like have this, oh my God, we've not done this. We needed to figure this out. And then all of a sudden, needs just started being met. Like when we settled, the pending bills, like there was nobody that was being owed a dime. They had supernaturally offset everything. I was so perplexed. I remember the night before the wedding, David and I moved around Abuja from where he was lodging us, moved down to Kubat's parents, went back to my house in Kari to get something, went to Gwarimpa again. So I went to Area 10 to do something, went to Gwarimpa to drop the person, went back to, I think David and I got back around 2 a.m. That's the day of his wedding, 2 a.m. That's when David and I got to sleep. We woke up the next morning, or that very morning, and David was getting married. I looked at him. The videographer came in, saying he wanted to start doing the videos. In my mind, I was like, this guy is really getting married. By the time we got set, we entered into the car. He was looking, touched up and all. We sat down in the car. I was like, oh my God, my friend is getting married. He was like, oh, what today? I think he posted something. He was like, please, what's happening today? I was like, he's getting married. We got to the venue. We came out. So, we got to the venue, parked and everything. The bride's car was waiting. The bridesmaids were already outside. I was like, wow, Baba is getting married. And we still, when we came out, I walked with him down to the altar, or to the stage. That altar makes it look like I was the one giving him out. But we walked, to our positions, and all the groomsmen were seated. And then we did the hallelujah. They were doing the praise worship with dancing and all. The next thing, the processional hymn came. And I didn't look back because I was like, Jesus is Lord. Like, it's really happening. It was like a very surreal moment. And so Jane walked up and she sat down next to Dave. I saw the way David looked and I was like, wow. I think he was like shocked and awe. Like, oh, so okay, I'm really getting married today. And the whole procession started. Now it was time for the vows. Now I know a lot of videos have been going out with me, like I think I got lost in the ceremony because I'm a words person. Words really get to me and I don't take words lightly. So when I was hearing the content of the vows, the depth of the content of the vows, I think I just got lost. My head was just up. I was just like, wow, this is really deep and all. And then, they got to the ring part. And she said, yes, I do. He said, yes, I do. The ring part. When they held their hands, and then the pastor now said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. I was like, wow. I remember David just whispered to me. He said he could feel his heart. He could feel his heart on his chest, like his heart wanted to come out of his chest. So I felt I was like the only one that was being apprehensive. I thought, David had it all figured out. And then, so we just had this like little in-house conversation, the bride, the groom, and then me and then the chief bridesmaid. And then all of us were like, almost like we're all tense though. It was just a very tense moment. Then the whole ceremony happened, and then I went to drop the gifts in their place, and then went back to give them some of the contributions that had come across to them. And then I just looked at them, he and his wife were just on the bed and everything. They were eating. And I was like, David Dam is married. That, it just started from being, I'm going to get married next year. And through the thick and thin, everything that happened, it still happened, they got married. It was, I left because I had rehearsal that day. Then Sunday, they came over just to share their testimony again. It's like, wow, they're married. I met them again on Monday. And, we got to their place, just checked out the place, did one or two checkings on what needed to be done, and also trying to figure out the access routes to the place. So, but it was just like, that very surreal moment. It was like David and Jane are now really married. My little conversations with Jane, she was like, we continue from where we stopped, just, very lively and lovely couple, people that I love from the depth of my heart. But I just really saw how all of this was just based on a decision. These two parties, David and Jane just said, we're really going to settle down next year. And they started putting plans in motion. And the moment they started putting plans in motion, it's like, the devil or the enemy or life or however you want to call it, started throwing its challenges to them. There were really hard times. There were times of, tears and all, but, that focus of really spending the rest of their lives together being a priority, that was it. I remember the discussions I had with them, how they were just, their hearts were just reaching out to each other. They're like, no, when I talk about it, I was like, no, I'm just really concerned about Jane. And then if I talk about Jane, she's like, no, I'm just concerned about D. I hope he's okay. I hope he's good. The whole stress and everything. And I just knew that these people really wanted to be together. They really wanted to be together. And they had made that decision. And I just really saw the power of a decision. And not just making a decision, but then putting plans in motion for that decision. Just starting. You may not have everything figured out. Yes, it's a lot better when you have things figured out, but in reality, you may not have all things figured out. And that's one thing you need to understand. You may not have all things figured out. But it's fine. Take it to God in prayer. Take your decisions to God in prayer and then move. It reminds me of the children of Israel when they were faced with the Red Sea. And, Moses told them that they should just move. How were they going to cross the Red Sea? They didn't know. But they just obeyed and they moved. And in that moment, the Lord created a way, right? The same thing when they did at the Jordan. Do you understand? The same thing when Gideon was going to fight the Amalekites and all. He just had an instruction from the Lord and then he moved with it. And everything really, really panned out. Everything just worked out. I love their wedding because their wedding, and even though their marriage is just a few days old rather, it has taught me faith in such an amazing way. It has taught me faith in such an amazing way. I am absolutely blown away by their expressions of faith. And you know, I love them with the whole of my heart. And I know that I know that there's a lot more that I'm going to learn from both of them. There's a lot more I'm going to learn from both of them because they have just epitomized what it means to have faith. And I think it's something that we could really learn. It may not just be on weddings or marriage or just generally life decisions. You know, God has given you that dream or you have that personal desire to do something. What exactly is it that you desire to do? That decision is the most important step you'll take. You understand? Decide that, okay, this is what you're going to have. This is your dream, and then begin to work towards it. You know, like they wanted to get married and then they started doing the things that people that want to marry do. Start meeting the family, you know, start making preparations, you know, have those discussions, talk about it, pray about it. Just move, meet your spiritual heads, talk to people that need to be involved in the marriage and all. You do all of that. You want to start up a business, do you understand? Or you have a dream to, you know, have conglomerates or whatever, large national corporations, you know, start it, pick up, you know, whatever it is, maybe read a book on it, you know, just start the research. You know, you want to be an awesome novelist, start writing the stories, you know, just start with that first sentence. And, you know, everything would really, really just align. Really, really just align. And I just learned it. I saw it firsthand. You know, Pastor Mike Allo mentioned it. It was an information then. But for me, it now became more of like, not my experience, but somebody's experience that I watched when David put that same thought into motion. And yeah, so that's really what I wanted to share. It was such an amazing time. I saw the tears in the eyes of people. People were really touched by their wedding and all. So something kind of like spooky happened. So we used my car to do a little bit of running around, and we found an engagement ring in my boot. I was like, wow, okay, an engagement ring. Yes, full, complete engagement ring in my boot. And I was the one that held the ring case. So I actually do have the ring case. I just put the engagement ring inside the ring case. And I asked myself, I was like, Binga, when do you want to marry? Like, you've heard the testimony, you've seen it. So do you want to try it out? So, I don't know. Maybe I'll marry next year too. Who knows? Let's see what quick work God can do. Right? But that's just on the light end. But I do have the ring. I'm actually looking at it, and it's actually a complete engagement ring. Like, it's full with the stud and everything. So, yeah. So Tyler, I hope you enjoyed my own little story, my own perspective of their marriage, their wedding rather, and I hope you're able to pick one or two lessons from it. So thank you. Remember, I love you. I'm always rooting for you. And yeah, you'll hear from me soon again. Bye.